Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everybody in between, welcome to another episode of the Chaps Chat Cats. My name's Jake, and I'm joined in the virtual studio by the one and only Mr. Johnny Larkin. How are you, Johnny?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty good. It feels odd to be back in the Patreon, not Patreon, the podcast studio after nearly a week, 2 weeks off. I feel like we've been on a little holiday, but been working the entire time.
Yeah, and that's probably what's led to us not putting out as many episodes as we normally would. There's been a lot of work. We both work in entertainment / hospitality, so Christmas, New Year's period isn't exactly time off for us. It just, in fact, it's the busiest time.
No, it is.
As
But
I
the
said,
good thing is,
we're
part of the Hoops crew.
Yes,
Part of the Hoops
exactly
crew.
what I was getting into.
You
We are the Chat
still
Chat Cats,
get
part of the Hoops Crew Media Network.
you still get Geelong Cats stuff happening each week, no matter who does it. Sometimes it's us, sometimes it's either Dan or Paul. That's the beauty of this the Hoops crew. You get Cats information no matter what. Tell you what, the stuff they've been putting out is been top class. Pretty good.
Couldn't agree with you more, Johnny. No, it's been good. There was a great episode up on the Hoops Crew YouTube. I can't remember, it was about a week ago, which was asking the what if question if Gary Ablett Sr. never left Hawthorn. So he never got to the Cattery. That was great. Ben and Paul discussing, the potential fallouts of that. And, obviously Gary Jr. doesn't end up at the Cats as a father-son. So good stuff there. They also just had an episode I saw drop, the Hoops Crew. They were talking about AFL games too long, I believe it is. So
Yes.
make sure you go on over to the YouTube page, check that out. Join up on the Patreon as well, the Hoops Crew on Patreon. There's been a lot of the player report cards that Paul has been putting up, grading player performances from 2023. So that's all exciting stuff. Exciting stuff tonight, Johnny, for us here on the Chaps Chat Cats. We've got a bit of a classic off-season episode. We're going to be getting into the 2024 Stonk market a little bit early. This isn't, for those of you who have listened to the show for a few years now, every year, generally as part of our season preview or in the week before the season, we do our Stonks, buy, sell, hold Stonks, which is basically, evaluating players that we think, oh, I'm buying Stonks here. I think this player's going to be on the rise. Or it might be, I've already got a bunch of Stonks on this player. I'm not going to up my intake. I'm not going to sell. I'm just going to hold. Or it could be sell, sell, sell. I've got a player that has been great, but feel like they might drop off. Obviously, we don't do too many of those because we're Cats fans and we're totally biased. We don't think anyone's ever going to drop off. But what we're going to do today, Johnny, is just look ahead. We're just discussing the Stonks market, players that might be on on our board when we get to the official Stonks episode. So we'll do that, and then we'll duck behind the Patreon curtain, and we're going to do our 5 favorite Cats of the 2011 period. So no Cat eligible that played before 2007, no Cat eligible that played after 2011. Or that only played after 2011. So just players who donned the hoops in that time. I think that's going to be a lot of fun as well. So make sure you go and sign up to the Patreon there. But Johnny, I thought we'd start off here. It's the off season, right? It's the off season.
It is. It is the off season.
And I was thinking about the year, obviously reflecting on 2023 and things that I've really enjoyed, things I haven't enjoyed. So just on the spot, if you're happy to, just wanted to dive into a little extra topic. It doesn't even have to be footy related.
You haven't warned me about this.
No, I know. I want to know, give us like biggest successes, biggest letdown of 2023. And like I said, it could be anything. I can start us off if you want with my biggest at least one of my biggest disappointments. and I'm going to go
I'll let
into
you
the
go with a
movie.
disappointment.
All right, so I'm going to say biggest disappointment for me: the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie that came out. And this came up in our group chat again the other night. I was so hyped for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles:
Teenage
Secrets of the
Mutant
Ooze. Was that what it was
Ninja
called, or was that
Turtles.
Mutant Mayhem?
Mutant
Mutant
Mayhem.
Mayhem. And I was like severely disappointed by it. Now that's not nothing against anyone who likes it, but to me, I was so hyped going in to watch that movie, and I was so flat coming out of it. I just felt like, I don't know, it's first time. Well, not the first time, but it was a time last year where I was like, well, that one just wasn't made for me. Just
Yeah.
didn't appeal on any level. Look, it wasn't like terrible. It just it was inoffensively just meh to me, and I just did, and that shocked me because in the past, if you're like, "There's a new Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie coming out," I'm like, "Wow, this is just a home run. I'm going to enjoy it," and really didn't. So
Yep.
that was one of my bigger entertainment disappointments of 2023. What about you, Johnny? Have you got a disappointment? Have you got a success?
Oh, I'm gonna go with a disappointment. I feel like we get the
Yeah,
disappointments out of the way
yeah.
quick and early,
Let's-
pop them off. And I was trying to think of one while you were talking about the Ninja Turtles movie,
Mm.
and I couldn't really think of one apart from the Ninja Turtles movie because I also was very
So we're
same
doubling
on
down on that.
doubling down on that. Very same as you, like going in very keen, saying what are they gonna do with the turtles? Are they gonna, how they're gonna make them interesting for this day and age? And they all just felt too same. They didn't have that uniqueness about them. That was my biggest disappointment in the whole thing. It was like there was moments where Leonardo was kind of a leader, but he never really felt like he was the leader, like he should be, like he was in the past. And they all just felt too similar. And that's the great thing about the Ninja Turtles. Each one is very different, and in their behavior, the way they portray, the way they act, everything they do is very different, and they all felt too similar.
Yeah, and to me, it was like one of those movies I went and watched, and it was just I thought this, I don't know, I felt like it's gonna be so dated within a couple of years, like, and particularly 10 years' time, like, so many pop culture references that's just like, well, this is just like, I don't know. I don't know, it just didn't sing to me on any level, so,
Yeah.
that was definitely a big disappointment. A positive, a success for me this year
Yep.
was discovering, my love of the sport of biathlon. I only started watching, early
Yeah.
2023, and it's basically become my favorite sport. I think it's amazing. If you haven't watched it before, you should. It's a great combination of incredible, like, cardiovascular, power and stamina as they cross country ski for like 10 or 15 or 20 kilometers, and then slowing down to have to control your heart rate, to control your breathing, to shoot 45 millimeter targets at 50-meter distances, in the prone shoot. I think it's 115 millimeter targets in the standing shoot. It is, right now, it's my favorite sport over all the others.
Right.
So yeah, that was a great success for me in
I like it.
2023. What about you? Have a great success in
Uh,
2023?
I'm just gonna say I feel like the Christmas lunch that I hosted this year felt like a great success. Everyone left
I
feeling looking pretty happy, pretty good, and got a few messages back from people saying it was a great time. They enjoyed it, and
mm,
they want me to do it again. And I believe you were one of them. I'll just toot my own horn here, but yeah, I think that
no,
was
absolutely.
a
Do
good
it.
success. I
No,
enjoyed
no,
it as well. It was good fun.
absolutely. Johnny, there's a picture. I can't remember if I put it up on the Chaps Twitter or not, but there's a picture of John absolutely in his element, a glass of red wine,
Yeah.
some sort of piece of food in his hand, and was it a Star Wars apron? I can't remember. It was an apron with lots of
It
like,
was just an apron with I don't think it
oh,
was
okay.
Star Wars. I can't remember what's on it. I should know. It was
It
made for
had a
me
lot of
by my
colorful
wife
pictures on it, but
and the
oh,
mother-in-law.
Jesus Christ, he's dumped himself in it here.
I have.
We'll just edit this bit out, John. We'll edit that bit out.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
um, So, or Colin will edit it out.
Yeah.
I agree. It was an exceptional Christmas lunch, and just to add on to this, to skew this Chapswood, um, we have talked about for a while of Johnny putting together a Chaps Chat Cats footy cookbook.
We
Been
have.
you've
I
been a
have
chef
thought
for a
about it.
long time now, John. Yeah, I think we've got some good ideas, and maybe
Got a
that'll be something we
few good
release.
ideas.
Like, maybe not this year, but maybe next couple. Maybe we could work on it
Yeah.
this year. Give us a shout if you would like to see Johnny put out a Chaps cookbook. Would probably
And I'll
involve like, I don't know, meals based around, footy viewing,
based
good
around I
good
was
things
thinking
like
based
that.
around footy viewing based on Cats
Mhm.
players and sort of like their personalities and what they would
Mm,
what they might like or what they,
I like it.
things that outside their football that they do that could, be incorporated into the recipe, into a meal.
I like it a lot, John. Give
Or
us
just basically or it
a
can also
shout.
just be based on just their appearance as well. Just going, they look like they'll be this type of person who would enjoy this. So it'll sort of be like
I
that.
love it. Absolutely love it. And if you like that idea, you should tweet at us, and that might light the
Definitely.
fire to get us making that Chap Chat Cat cookbook. All right, let's get into it, Johnny. We are going to take an early look at the 2024 Stonk market. A look ahead. So I'm not asking you to commit to anything here, John. We just got to have a think. It's just an evolving discussion, an improvised
Yep.
discussion of like what you're thinking, maybe some players that are crossing your radar. Um, yeah, look, I'm even going to open it up if you wanted to talk AFLW players, but for me, like that's a ways off. But if there is a
That is the
player that
way
you
up.
think, like, feel free. I've thought about it from the men's perspective just because that's the next closest season.
Yep.
But if you've got a far-reaching one, yeah, do you have a player in mind or players in mind that might be on your Stonks radar in 2024? We should really go into the Stonks floor
We should
here,
go to the Stonks
the
floor.
Stonks office. Yeah, all right. Let me just we'll
Um,
just go in the stairs
hang on.
up here. Get into the Stonks
Beautiful.
market. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So yeah, what are you sort of where are you leaning?
Where am I leaning? Oh, it's hang on,
Mm.
let's see if this background works. It's a bit of a fancy
Oh, nice.
retreat. I'm just on a Zoom call at this going into the Stonks
Oh,
market on a
very
Zoom
good.
call in my Alpine ensuite. Oh,
Ski lodge. Yeah,
Alpine
love it.
ski lodge. um, I'm going to talk about players that I think possibly you could either hold on to or possibly think about selling stonks around now because I think their stonks are high
Mm.
and may not get
Mhm.
higher. And it's only really
Okay.
one player. There's only one player that I think you should either hold or possibly move on, and that is
Possibly
T.
sell.
Stewart. Tom Stewart. I think his
Ooh,
stonks
okay.
would be very high at the moment, still after his great year. Well, he got another All Australian, I believe. Won the Kaji Greaves
Mm,
quite comfortably. So his stonks could be quite high. A good time to sell. Or you could hold on and see how
mm.
his start of the season goes. And if it gets better, you could even make more stonks off him. So I think it's a tricky one. But I think his stonks are still
Mm.
holding very well high up. And
It
it can either go slightly higher or it could come
mm.
crashing down a little bit, depending on what happens.
What do you reckon? Like if we have a think about this sort of because stonks, there's so much that the player can control. There's so much the coaching
Yes.
staff can control, but there's also just other factors. Obviously there's injury factors and changing of roles, and I think that's one that I'm interested to get your opinion on. Do you think that something that could maybe even increase Tom Stewart's value would
Absolutely.
be a move to midfield? Like, how do you see
Absolutely.
that? Do you see that as a value add or a value decrease if he moves, if he plays more midfield time?
I think it depends on how well he goes in that midfield. If he's in the midfield round one and has a really, dominant game, like getting like 30 or 25 plus disposals, a couple of goals, goal assists, few goal score involvements and all that, then yeah, definitely his stonks would increase highly. But on the other hand, if he doesn't do super well, like gets below 20 disposals and doesn't impact the scoreboard like we know he could, then that could really
Mm.
drop his stonks a little bit. So I think it's a tricky one with Tom Stewart. I think it could make a fair bit if you sell now, but there is the potential
Mm.
to get a lot more later on in the year if it all goes well. But I think that's a big if. I think there's
Yeah.
a bigger chance of it sliding. I don't think it will slide hugely,
Mm.
but the
But
possibility to gain is
it'll never
there as
get
well.
better than it is right now.
Not
Yeah.
really, unless he has an outstanding like full year in the midfield and dominates every single game.
Yeah, it's hard when you're a great player, like to get higher than like you've got no room to sort of grow in that sense in terms of stonk value.
No,
Someone someone who's sort of crossed my radar a little bit, I would say, is Mark Blixarves.
yep,
Like, I'm a bit worried about Blix from the injury perspective. Like, I know he's been really like healthy, like all through. From my memory anyway, he's always been quite available. And maybe someone, another Stonk analyst could tell me I'm wrong if I am. But I always feel like he's been healthy and available. But I don't know, that injury last year really shook me because he does so much work, and it's not like he plays a position that he's under a high amount of like physical stress all the time. He's in marking contests against big players. He's running, around the wing. He's at center bounces. He's in the ruck contest. Like, it's not like he is a total spring chicken. And obviously I want to say that, he's just going to keep on keeping on. But I would say I'm a little worried about that, I suppose. I don't know about you. Like, have you got any concerns about like Blixarves or even any other players in terms of like their physical health? It's not about them being able to produce on field in terms of their form, but it's more like, is Father Time just going to end up catching up with a few guys from a health and fitness perspective? What are your thoughts there?
possibly, but and hopefully not. But yeah, I agree with you there. It is one of those injuries that was a bit of a
Mm,
damning one as well. It really curtailed his season, and he struggled to get back
mm,
onto the pitch through the injury and get back to his best. But I think alongside this long off season that the whole team is getting, I think that could also be a really beneficial gain for all of them, just to sort
mm,
out these injuries, sort out the bodies, to make sure they're fully fit and ready to go round one. And if they're
mm,
not, then there's a lot of other players who are waiting in the wings to have a go. So yeah,
mm,
I think the challenge for Blixavs is there to make sure he's fit for round one, but I also think the competition
mm.
is around that he would be doing his absolute best to make sure that he gets picked round one, and I think he will. But it's just is he going
Yeah.
to be able to perform at the same level?
Well, for me with Blix, it's just like, is he going to be like, just I know it sounds silly, but this is like, again, this isn't, we're not nailing our colors to the mast on any of these picks. It's more just what's going on in our head. Like, I just went and had a look. That was the fewest games he's played in a season in his entire career at Geelong. He played 19
Ooh.
matches in 2023. And obviously, from my memory, once he was injured, he didn't come back. It was a season ender against Freo. Um, It was, yeah. Fremantle, he got
Yeah, it
injured
was.
and then didn't play against Port, didn't play against Collingwood yet. So it's a season ender. If you go back and look at his career, debuted in 2013 and every year since 22 games, 23 games, 21, 24, 20, 23, 25, 21, 24, 24. So 2021 and 2022, he'd been exceptionally available. He played every game. Yeah, it does make me a bit
Sort of bit.
scared, I guess.
I feel like he'll be a bit of a
He's
wait and
32
see,
too.
because
Yeah.
it could be one of those ones that it could buy. I reckon you could pick up a few stonks fairly cheap for Blixabs at the moment and see how that goes. Don't buy too many, just buy a few. And it's sort of like a wait and see, I reckon. A wait and see how he goes. Capitalize early.
Capitalize when people like me are a bit scared.
Absolutely. Because I think his stonks could be plummeting or could be going down. I don't want to say plummeting, but could be going down a little bit. So now might be the time to grab a few sneaky stonks on Blitz. Because we know he can turn it around.
Yeah, and just to clarify before anyone like worries that I'm hating on him, or like it's totally to me about not like aging or like, 'cause he's only 32, like he's younger than me. Like I'm not saying he's losing his like quality or ability. It's just like he plays so much and we ask so much of him physically. It's not a simple role. I'd hate to see his career end in physical breakdown. And that might not happen. We might not be close to that happening, but I don't know, just something about that injury really, like, I don't know, just scared me and made me feel a bit sick of like, oh God, don't tell me like, I don't know. I just love watching Blixarves. I would hate to think that injury, which seemed like somewhat anomalous for his career, was the start of the end or anything like that, because he's just magic to watch. But what about you, Johnny? What are some others? Have you got anyone that you're looking, any sneaky like buys that maybe people are undervaluing right now? Maybe their stonks went down in 2023.
Definitely.
A cat that didn't have as an exception. All right, go for it.
Definitely. One, I think you should definitely buy Stonks in that didn't have his best year. And if the rumours are true about Stewart going into the midfield, I think buying in SDK now after his year where it was a disappointing year, and I think he would say that as well, his Stonks would have dropped fairly greatly. So I think now is the time to buy up while it's cheap, while it's low, and see it rise up, because I think he could be in for another big year. Because I think all players will be looking back over last year going, there's a lot of times where it's just a disappointing few efforts here and there. And we know what he can do. We all know what SDK is capable of. And if he's the main man down there without Stewart, then he's going to have to really step up. And I reckon he could. And I reckon his stocks could skyrocket. So buy SDK whenever you can, like right away.
I agree. Like, he had such a hot sort of 2022 that it was a bit like the whole Cat season in a way. Like, it was always going to be so hard to repeat what they'd just done. No, I agree there. One I think that I like too, Brad Close. I think people were pretty down on his 2023. Did average, I'm just trying to see what his averages were, 13.2 disposals. So again, he had a really hot 2022. He had, averaged 15.8 disposals in 2022. That dropped to 13.2 last year. He kicked 26 goals in 2022, only kicked 21. But then you have to factor in too, like, played less games too. Like, they only played 21 games having missed finals last year. But I do think that you probably would look at it a little and go, there were some games where he maybe didn't feature as well or as heavily as he might have wished. I think he had a really good game in the win over Melbourne down at Cardinia Park. He had 24 touches in that game, and I thought was really a valuable contributor in that win. Obviously, kicked 4 goals in the romp over West Coast. But I think in terms of his most impactful games, I do think that game against Melbourne in round 15 was one of those. I think he had a really good game against Hawthorn on Easter Monday, 17 touches, 2 goals. The game against Melbourne too, 24 touches, 4 tackles, and won 4 free kicks. Didn't give away any free kicks. So he was pretty important there. And I think he's one that's probably, his values probably slipped a little bit. So,
Yeah.
If you hear people saying, oh, yeah, Brad Close is no good. Didn't you see his last year? He's satisfied. He was this or that. I reckon now's the time to tell those people, you don't know what you're talking about. And I'm buying. I'm going to be considering buying some Brad Close stonks. What about the youngsters, Johnny? Any from like any from either last year's rookie selections, like your Ted Closies, your Jai Clarks,
Yes.
That sort of batch, or anyone from the new draftees. What are you looking at?
I'm looking at Sean Mannon. Definitely a buy in Sean Mannon. And I think if anyone who watched the VFL or kept an eye on the VFL like yourself, Jake, would know what a great player he is, what he's capable of. And he's also said in many interviews that he's looking to play round 1. He wants to play round 1, so he's driven. He's prepared to put in the hard work, prepared to put in the hard yards to get himself available for round 1. And if he gets it, I think he's going to grab it with both hands and not let go. And I say buy Sean Mannon and buy big time, because the little bit I've seen of his VFL career has been pretty sensational. And he looks like a really good fit for the Cats. Looks like what we need at this time after losing Selwood. He's a player that we need to be that connector.
Here's the stats for you. I'll run through his 2023 disposal counts for Werribee. 31, 40, 24, and 12. But keep in mind, he kicked 3 goals, 1 in the game where he had 12 touches. 31 disposals, 21, 29, and 2 goals. 27, 25, 29, and 2 goals. 28 and 3 goals. 25 touches and 7 goals, 1 against Sandringham. 28 touches and 2 goals. 21, 24 and 3 goals, 24, 15, 29 and 2 goals, 13 and a goal, 19 and a goal, 27 and 6 goals, 2 in the grand final against the Gold Coast. So, I'm just looking back through, he had 2 games, maybe 3 games, 3 or 4 games last year where he didn't hit the scoreboard. And he's almost exclusively having 20 plus disposal games, if not higher. So many of 25 plus. So same with the tackles, he's just bringing an immense amount of pressure. He's kind of a complete player in that sense. He's good defensively,
ready to go.
He's good winning the ball. Yeah, 100%. I love that one, Johnny. I don't think you can buy too much stonks on Sean Manor.
No, definitely not.
I'm going to go with like a player I'm thinking about for this year is, as weird as it sounds, like I'd possibly even buy a little Tom Hawkins.
I was thinking
about, because everyone's kind of out on him,
Hawkins,
I was
going to say, if you have Hawkins, hold on to them. Hold on to your Stonks and Hawkins. Don't sell. Definitely don't sell.
Yeah, because he, it was sort of like, he's on his last legs kind of thing, and he didn't play that well. And, it's true, he missed some time, but he kicked 49 goals. He kicked 49 goals in 20 games last season. Multiple games of like 4 or more. He kicked 5 against Sydney in that win. He kicked 8 against Essendon, 5 in another win over Essendon. I think he's still got a lot to offer. I think anyone who's saying he's cooked probably, was looking at that first month where he really didn't look himself. And then probably was looking at his last month where I think, he was carrying injury, ended up missing 3 of the last 4 games. And our midfield by that time of the year was totally cooked. They'd
Yeah.
really got the better of us. So there wasn't the supply either. So I think if you look at the middle part of the season, when our midfield was really winning the ball and we were together, you can see what Hawkins still has to offer. I think if you're only looking at the bookends of the season, you're probably getting a skewed view of what he is, because you're basing his production on him not being healthy. And, that's a fair argument to say that, well, he was, had injuries at the start and end of the season. Is that going to be something that plagues him next year? Possibly. But I don't think I'd be loath to judge him based on the performance of our midfield either, who, really did get towed up a bit to start and end the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any others,
Definitely.
Johnny? A buy, a sell, a hold?
I'll just say the same about Jeremy Cameron. Hold on, Jeremy Cameron. Don't
True.
sell. I think a few people probably quickly sold on him during the season when he started not being able to play, but he was carrying an injury through basically half a season, and went straight into surgery. And like Hawkins, he's going to come off a long off season, and he's only going to be get better. Like he had a fantastic like last year, he was looking career best year. Talk Brownlow medalist, gonna be in another grand final, be in the All Australian, be captain of All Australian. He was looking hot, and then got injured and had really struggled, lots of struggles, which is fair. So if you did sell, buy those Stonks back and hold, because he's a great player, and he's not going to go fall off the cliff. He's just not going to fall off the cliff that quickly. That's kind of crazy. So hold on Jeremy Cameron. Don't sell. And if you did, you're going to regret it.
How quickly people forget, Johnny. He kicked 7 goals, 4 against the reigning premiers 3 weeks before the end of the season.
Exactly.
It's just like,
While he was
what
injured.
are we doing? Yeah, exactly. One of them from the car park.
Yeah.
I just want to add. I would like to add. Yeah, go for it. You got another one?
No, you go. I was just going to say I've got one more after you.
All right. I've got a couple left, so maybe I'll do one. You do one, then I'll throw out my last one.
Sounds good.
I'll go. I'll keep this to the men's so I'll just keep it to one, but I'll keep it to the men's. Because I think we can do another one of these for the women's season, when it's closer and we've got a better idea of what's going on there. But I am going to say buy a little on Cam Guthrie.
Yes.
Doesn't have to be a heap. You just sprinkle a little that way. I think, I think it's worth being a little concerned about Cam Guthrie and his injury stuff. There's been other seasons, maybe going back to 2018. He only played 13 games there. I'm assuming that was injury, if I remember correctly, that kept him to just 13 matches. But 6 games last year, I think I would buy a little Cam Guthrie, because I just think he's going to get back to that, averaging 23 touches, say, and that would be so valuable for us. I just don't think we had that player. I mean, that player was Tom Stewart, was our leading disposal getter in terms of the average disposals he won. So I'm saying buy a little Cam Guthrie. I've seen some footage of him in the practice matches, in training, and he's, dropping brilliant kicks off the left, off the right, looks in good shape, looks in, good form and fitness. So he's a player that maybe gets forgotten about, a pretty crucial cog that was forgotten about. And he missed most of last season. So I'm saying I'm going to be leaning towards buying some Cam Guthrie once we get into the Stonk market officially. When the market opens the week before the season, I'm thinking I'll be watching the training news though. I want to see if there's any lingering issues over the foot injury or anything like that. So if that happens, maybe I'll stay away. But if that doesn't happen, if all reports are good, I'll definitely be buying some Cam Guthrie. What's your last one, Johnny?
My last one, I'm going with by Ollie Henry. He had a good year last year in his first year in the hoops,
Backup.
and he's only going to get better with his marking. His goal kicking was pretty fantastic, was exceptional, apart from a few hiccups here and there, which 9 out of 10 times he'll kick a lot of the goals he missed. But he still kicked, I think, 41 goals in his first season at the Cats.
Yeah.
So had a very exceptional first year. So definitely get ready to buy Oliver Henry when the market opens up, because he could have another really good year, I reckon. And especially if Hawkins and Cameron aren't fully fit, which I think they will be. But he's still got lots of room to grow. And as Cameron and Hawkins do start to, leave the game and get ready for retirement, Oliver Henry is only going to take up more and more of that forward line and become more of that spearhead that the Cats are needing.
I think too, like I'd advise like buy up whether Hawkins and Cameron are in form and fitness or not, because even if they are, sometimes that third forward is the one who reaps the benefits, kind of thing, of the best defenders being dragged over to Cameron or Hawkins or whatever. I think.
I was just going to say, you're
pretty excited.
You're a forward named Oliver Henry, and you got Jeremy Cameron and Tom Hawkins beside you, and another one called Gary Rowan. Yes, Gary Rowan's not as feared as the rest, but if you still let Gary Rowan and Oliver Henry run around that forward line, they're still going to kick a bag, and quite easily. So yeah, definitely.
Absolutely.
Buy up.
Yeah, no, couldn't agree more. I had a potential sell, but I'm not going to go with it. I don't want to end on a negative. So I'll just filter in one last positive, Johnny, and that is I would be thinking, and again, it's a bit of a danger with the injury, possibility and that sort of thing, and the bigger men, are a little riskier Stonks propositions because of the injury possibilities, but go and add yourself a little Toby Conway to that Stonks portfolio, because I watched him run around a bit in the VFL last year and obviously got to make his debut at AFL level in the last game or so. Go and get yourself a little bit of Toby Conway, because his ruck work in the VFL was just too good for the level. So, and I thought you even saw like his class and quality in the ruck shining through in his first game against the Dogs. They had to make a switch in the end. What they do? They switched Lob
English
into the
out,
ruck. I think.
And got Lob in there, yeah.
Yeah. So that's massive for Conway's first game to force a change in the ruck. And yeah, I'd buy some Toby Conway Stonks there. All right, gonna get out of the Stonks office now. Gonna wash work off. Yeah, gotta wash work off and just get back home. Thanks for coming into the Stonks office with me, Johnny.
No worries.
Appreciate it.
I'm back in my normal house now. Quick flight back
That's
home.
right. Yeah, those speedy jets, Johnny. It's the lifestyle. Stonks analysts. Yeah.
People say the Concorde got discontinued, but it was just left for us, for the Chaps and the Hoops crew.
Absolutely. All right, let's jump in to the Patreon segment. That's what we're on to now. So if you'd like to hear us talk about our favorite 5 cats of the 2007 to 2011 era, go on over to the Hoops Crew Patreon channel and subscribe. You do that, you get early access to different bits and pieces. You get extended versions of shows. Go on over, check it out. There's hundreds of bits and pieces on there. So go and have a look there, sign up, and we'll love having your company and support there in 2024. But until next time, go Cats.
Go Cats.